I was in the fight, and I came back. So just for some context, our rounds, we only have 3 rounds, and they're only 2 minutes long each. So you would think, oh, that's way less than a pro fight.
Yeah.
This should be easy, but it's really not, because everyone has that adrenaline going, and they're trying to kill each other. You're trying to kill each other the second you get out there.
Yeah.
You're swinging. You get tired in like 10 seconds. I remember I went back to my corner after the first round. I was like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this.
And like scored one here.
Yeah, and then
Hey guys, welcome back to the 13th episode of the Empty Cup Podcast. I'm your host, Govind Poipakam.
And I'm your co-host, Nathanael Sansanito.
Oh, I guess I should say co-host.
Yeah.
And we have very special guests, Manu Gummaraju.
hello, everybody.
Thanks for being with us. Yeah.
Of course, was looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, I guess. So we've known each other for a good bit. But more recently, I got into the Georgia Tech Boxing Club, which you've been a part of for a while now. You're co-president. So I that's the reason I brought you on, because I wanted to talk about that. That's something I've been fascinated by, and want to see what your experience has been like so far.
So I've loved it. I've been a part of it all 4 years. There was like the first club I joined when I got to Tech. So just as a little bit of background, I did not fight growing up, but between my junior and senior years of high school, there was this thing that popped up near my house called 9 Round, and it was basically a kickboxing fitness HIIT workout. And you would go for 30 minutes, and you'd go, and there'd be a bunch of different stations. And it was more so a HIIT workout for people that were trying to stay fit, and not for people that were trying to learn how to fight. But naturally, like through it being a kickboxing workout, like I learned how to throw punches, right? And then I came to Georgia Tech, and we had our organization fair or club fair or whatever it's called, and I walked around, and there's this guy advertising the boxing club, and I was like, I didn't even know we had a boxing club, or that boxing was done collegiately. And just through the background of being in that kickboxing workout, I was like, I like to throw punches. Let's see what this is about. And I also like the fact that we practiced at an actual boxing gym with actual boxing trainers.
Right.
Because like most clubs you see, it's just like students get together and they try to do something.
Usually on campus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I was getting to go to an actual boxing gym, and it was super exciting, or seemed super exciting.
Yeah.
And then especially once you go there, like you've been to practice, you go down a set of stairs, and there's graffiti everywhere.
That threw me off for a minute. I was just like, this looks like a regular complex, like Walmart kind of complex.
Yeah.
And then you see like a door, and then it goes down inside to this like
into
dojo
the depths of the earth. Yeah. And then we got rings everywhere. People.
And there's music blasting.
But is it underground?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's actually under, I think it's like a DD's discount or something. We took over their basement, and that's where our boxing gym is.
I wonder how they build that. Because I noticed like in the back area, there's stairs going back up.
Yeah. So the stairs that go up actually, there's just another parking lot in the back. So I don't think we directly connect to the thing that's above us. But yeah, basically it's a super cool vibe, the location. So that's kind of what really pulled me in. And then, so freshman year I joined, and me and another person. So basically we have to carpool to get there because it's an off-campus gym, and the person.
Unless you have a car. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, car.
So, I drive now, but freshman year I didn't have a car. This guy would drive me constantly, and he's my roommate now, one of my best friends. But basically we got super obsessed with it, and we would go constantly. Still in it? Yeah. He's a manager. His position is manager. So he's more on the fighting side. So manager like kind of takes care of the comp team and stuff. Shout out Eric. Anyways,
you should watch this.
we got super obsessed with going, and we have practices Monday through Thursday and Saturday, and we'd go to every single practice, and sometimes we'd go to some of the classes that they offered in the morning. So we just train, and it was just something that got your mind off of school. It's something to work towards. Like, I get bored easily, so just going to work out for the sake of working out isn't really enticing to me. But now there was like, okay, I'm gonna fight, so I have to go train, and we really got obsessed with it, and it was really fun. We went to one fight. We could talk about this a little later. But anyways, COVID, second year of school, there was no boxing club or no sports clubs. And then third year, we kind of started ramping up. And I wasn't even really going to join the boxing club. But the president at the time, there wasn't a lot of people that were able to return. So he was like, hey, you want an executive position? Because we don't have much people. Or we don't have
this
many
whole
people.
time, were you like on the competition team or?
So freshman year, yeah, I was on the competition team.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
sophomore year, we didn't have, like I said, we went super often. So both me and him made it to competition team very, very quickly. So yes, and then my junior year, I wasn't planning on going back just because there'd been such a long break, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go back or what the club will be like or if there would be a club. And then they started the club back up, and they needed some executive members. So me and Eric both went and became executive members. And yeah, we have really been working hard on building the club out, and we got super involved in it. Not only just as a competitive team, but also on the social side and people that want to lose weight, people that want to get fit, people that just want to learn how to fight, but maybe not fight other people.
I saw on the website it has obviously the competition and then there's just the regular team, but also there's a fitness team or something.
So we recently edited that, so if you go check it out now, it'll be a little bit different. Yeah. So before what we used to do, why you wanted to do the fitness team?
I don't know.
Okay.
So it seemed interesting.
Yeah. So the setup before was actually a fitness, training, and competitive team. Before it was called A, B, and C team, but we don't really want to put that rhetoric out there. So it was fitness, training, and competitive. Anyways, people that didn't want to fight at all would go on the fitness team, and it would be like a boxing workout, just like 9 round was before.
Yeah. Okay.
The training team would be people that are wanting to be on the competitive
Is that your
team.
idea?
No, that's how the club was set up before. Those three situations, or those three.
Before you were even there.
Yeah, before I was even there. It started I think 1 or 2 years before 2019, which is when I got there.
But it seems like most people have the idea that like you were saying, either in conversation or before, that it's a club team, so they think they have to already know boxing.
Yeah. So yeah,
I wouldn't think that a lot of people would join and think, oh, I want to be on the fitness team.
There were still some people that joined and kind of because friends of friends that we got that message out that you could join the fitness team.
Yeah.
So the fitness team was there was some people in it. There were some people in the training who are people that want to fight and be on the competitive team, and then the competitive team. I didn't know this before, but there's actually intercollegiate boxing. So boxing is a very special sport because if you want to go pro in it, it's not like football where you have to work your way up through high school and college and then you go pro and then you get drafted or whatever, right? Because any other sport you can think of, like baseball, football, basketball, you go through the process, right? Yeah. But there's no collegiate boxing. You just fight with your own trainer that's not in a college, and then you go pro basically whenever your coach decides, and you set up fights with other people, and you win belts, and there's a million belts. So there's not a set path to be a pro in boxing. There's not an organization that runs boxing, one organization, right?
Yeah.
So what we're involved in is intercollegiate boxing. So there's actually an organization that's trying to blow up a little bit called UCBA, and we fight other colleges that also have club teams, but it's collegiate boxing. It's not most of us are not trying to go pro or amateur or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's very specific for students that don't want to fight for go pro. They're obviously in college, but they like boxing and they want the ability to fight other people at that level. So other students that are also in boxing.
Yeah, I think that's something good to address in the beginning. It's why would people do boxing? From the outside, it kind of seems it's just people fighting each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of an esoteric idea. So briefly, what brought you to boxing? Why should other people consider boxing? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's a skill like anything else, right? So the biggest thing is with any other sport, most people, they start out when they're kids. So you can't really start a sport and be good.
Oh my God. Seeing kids doing boxing.
Yeah, no, they're insane.
Does that happen?
What do you mean? Is there
boxing? Because I feel boxing, it's you want to be careful.
No, there's they're more careful, but there's definitely kids that
I've seen jiu-jitsu
for tournaments,
which is crazy.
Yeah. No, parents' choice, kids' choice, whatever, but it does exist.
I'm wondering what kind of parents they want to have their kids start then, unless their parents did it themselves.
Anything. Maybe the kid wants to do it. They say oh, I want to start boxing. They saw it and they're oh, this is cool. I don't know. But just the way any kid starts any sport, they're oh, this is cool. Let me start it. Or their parents you want to try this? No, it's fine. Yeah. I totally forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so people that want to join.
Yeah.
They come. because I would say nowadays, especially, it's very it's a very popular sport. Like there's a million YouTuber versus Twitch, whatever. I don't know. There's people that are famous that do
pay
boxing.
attention to that stuff?
A little bit.
KSI.
Yeah, not super closely, but it's bringing boxing into a new light because it's bringing in a whole new group of people that want to watch boxing. So I would say it's kind of in some ways good for the sport, but it's also in some ways bad for the sport, obviously, because people are like, I can start boxing now. And
that's how it caught my attention, honestly.
Yeah.
Between the Logan Paul and KSI fight, I guess that's the one that kind of started it all.
Mhm.
I was like, oh shit, this is just kind of fun to just watch like random like influencers on YouTube or whatever social media platform go at each other, and then from that, like I started paying more attention. Like whenever I saw it on TV, I'd be like, I'd watch it a little bit longer than usual, and then eventually over time started like watching all different styles, and now I like enjoy it and analyze it.
People love like fighting in general, like violence. It's just a human thing.
Really?
And I guess
I feel like some people love it or some people hate it.
Yeah, but like especially in where it's controlled, like it's a sport, like MMA and stuff, people know, it's not just people fighting someone not at your level. When you see two humans that have been practicing for a very long time and hurting each other, and like they're both so good that they can both defend themselves and, go on the offense, it's very interesting and intriguing to see. So I would say that's why people like boxing and martial arts in general. I would say there's other martial arts that people don't really like watching or that haven't been brought into the limelight as much. But like I would say something like BJJ, for example, right? It's hard to understand and see what's happening, right? In boxing, like people are throwing fists at each other. This is obviously like it's something interesting. It's crazy. Like someone catches someone and they get knocked out. It's exciting, right?
Well, I think it's also the consequences. Maybe they're just as severe, but like you see it like. I don't know. In jiu-jitsu, you can like break someone's arm. I think. You're also
people tap.
Most people tap out before that happens.
And it's not one like. It's not like an instantaneous thing that happens and then they get caught with like there's nothing quite like somebody getting punched and knocked out. You know what I mean? So it's just very interesting. So that's one of the reasons that people join. Secondly, fitness. People want to get fit, and boxing is a great way to do that. I would say like the community you go. There's trainers pushing you. It's not like you're going to the gym and you're trying to motivate yourself. Like there's an external force pushing you, and just naturally you want to do better when you see everyone else going hard. So it's kind of everyone uplifting each other. And then last but not least, it's like you can win belts. Like it's a sport. It's a competition. You want to win. So that's what that keeps people sometimes. Like when they see themselves getting better and better, they're like, oh, maybe I can go fight somebody else and win something. So I'd say those are the major reasons people have joined boxing.
I definitely see that in the brief spell I've had with martial arts and currently boxing. I've noticed how much I can like push myself further with the social presence and like someone yelling at you.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. It's just like I remember distinctly like trying to work out when I was a kid in my room, and it's just like after a while I'd give up. Like I'd obviously have like some motivation going in, but like that kind of dies out pretty fast. I think.
Yeah, it's hard. Like people like to think they have a lot of motivation, and maybe some people
have more than others.
Yeah, but it's difficult. So like, we shouldn't hold that against anybody. Yeah. And if you have an opportunity where you can work out with a bunch of other people, like take that opportunity. That's like working out is always more fun with a bunch of people, right? So
it's not even that. It's just like you can push yourself so much farther than you ever anticipated. It's definitely some like David Goggins kind of thing.
Yeah, especially when you have fists coming at you, like you got to defend yourself. Like
not even sparring. Though I was just talking about like jab training. Like, just general like amount of cardio you have to do. Like fitness to just be in shape to qualify for that sparring or that fighting. And then you get into sparring, and then you're everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right, the great Mike Tyson quote. And I think that's something I've also been fascinated about. Is just like, if you're talking about a street fight, you're talking about being in like sparring or being in a competition fight. Like, how do you actually prepare yourself so that you're not just in a flight or fright response? You actually have some like level of control over it. If that makes sense.
I would say so. Once you start training in boxing, boxing is definitely not like a street fight. We tell everyone this.
Nothing is really like.
Yeah, exactly. We tell everyone this. or we should be telling everyone this. I hope everyone knows this. You should not try to box somebody in a street fight.
You should also just not be a violent person.
Yeah,
yes.
but it happens sometimes. Just run away.
I guess more so from like assault. Yeah.
You don't know if the other person has like a knife or whatever. You don't know you don't know if the other person has been training for 20 years. Yeah, but I would say if like in a worst case scenario and you need to throw a punch, like it's a very good skill to have in general. And especially,
I mean, you see that in all sports too, right?
Yeah.
Like even like soccer, basketball, you see like, oh, when the pressure builds up, when people are watching you, like how do you actually act? Or even like a concert, like when people are like, I remember I was in the orchestra and I definitely felt a massive difference in my performance when I was just like in the spotlight. And like I'd have moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm just like my fingers are all like auto trained and I'm just like playing, like thinking about like what's happening here. Like you know, it's like the weirdest.
Is that a violin?
Like,
is that a violin?
Yeah, I used to play violin. And it's just like the weirdest because I'm like eventually like I'm gonna mess up. Like I'm getting into my own head too, which is the weirdest.
I would say it's definitely different in boxing because in my experience,
you can't think like that.
Yeah, or you don't even notice the crowd, to be honest. You're locked in on the person you're fighting. I would say like the crowd pressure can get you in other scenarios, but really in boxing, I don't think that's as much of an issue because you're not trying to perform for somebody else.
Right.
You're not trying to like the entertainment comes naturally. Yeah, you're trying to not get knocked out, right? And knock the other person out.
Yeah.
But what was the question? Sorry, you said.
No, I just said I was fascinated. But that was really just a question. But I mean, obviously, from your perspective, that maybe that's something you've developed is this like ability to think during duress.
Yeah,
under duress. Yeah.
Like it's all things that you've done a million times before. That's the only thing that sticks in your head.
Right.
So once you get in your first fight, like street fight or otherwise. In this case, it's your first fight, like after you've been training.
How many times have you competed?
I've only competed one time.
Okay.
I'll say that story after this.
Pre-COVID or
Yeah, it's pre-COVID.
Gotcha.
I'll tell a story in a second. But the second you get into the ring, everything flies out your head, right? So the things that you've done a million times stays in your head. And especially with boxing, it's kind of different because there's so many punches they can throw at you. There's so many like instantaneous scenarios that can happen. Mm-hmm. So the more reps you get in, and like, let's say the person throws something at you. If you've seen that a million times and you've reacted to it just over and over and over again in practice, it's just going to come naturally and you're going to flow through the next movement. Maybe it's like you get out the way, then you throw a punch, and then you get out the way again. Like whatever the combination is, it naturally flows if you've done a lot of practice. But back to my experience in boxing. So me and my friend both started our freshman year, and we'd never fought before or done boxing. So we trained super hard, and I want to say it was in December or January, but that was our first fight that we went to, which was kind of unique because usually people train for a longer period of time. Yeah. So we went to this fight. It was in Virginia. It was super fun, like trip in general, because I didn't think they had like field trips in college, but we were going on a trip with our club. But anyways, we got there. And it was like, first of all, both of us had to cut. And cutting, I hate cutting so much.
Like the weight?
Yeah, for weight requirement. So our coach has us cut because you want to be at a certain weight when you get on the scale. For those of you who don't know what cutting is, but you want to be at a certain weight when you get on the scale, and then you go back to your natural weight, like right after you get on the scale, so you're like healthy and ready to fight. And the way that we did that was we ate not a lot of food going up to the fight, so we'd lose weight naturally, and then also we'd drink a ton of water right before, and then like a couple days before, and then right before we'd not drink any water, so we'd lose a bunch of water weight before we got on the scale. So then we got on the scale. It was not a fun experience. Like it's so weird training at a certain weight and at a certain health, and then trying to fight at a different weight. It's just a weird experience to cut and then fight.
How much was the difference?
I want to say it wasn't even a lot. I think I was like 148, and I fought at like 140, I think. So it was like 8 pounds.
Way a lot more than that.
No, this was before. Yeah, I hadn't gained. I was super skinny before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I do briefly remember what you look.
We were both pretty skinny. But anyways, we cut. Obviously, it's not a ton of weight if you think like 8 pounds of whatever. But it was for somebody who's already skinny. Like it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
So we were both just feeling like shit, and we went to the fight, and we both fought. So Georgia Tech has a pretty good collegiate boxing program, and then University of Michigan also does. And we both fought fourth-year Michigan people who had been training. Yeah, they only, like, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they only allow people to fight after they've been training for like 3 years. So it's people that have been very, very experienced, and it was just a small guys. They'd just been training for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And neither of us got knocked out, but we both lost the fight by decision. But yeah, I would say like we lost, but I don't know, whenever I tell people we lost, it's not even like that they're, haha, you lost, whatever. It's like, oh, you got knocked out. That must have been terrible. Because, like, whenever you see someone lose in social media, they're like, oh, that person got knocked out. That's why they lost. Like, at this level, they judge you more on your technique and your skill level.
Like the point system.
Yeah, exactly. So the ref is super careful. If someone even like has the inkling of about to get knocked out, like they stop the fight. They know that we're college students first and we're trying to box second. So they're gonna protect us and our health. Like that's the most paramount thing, right? So yeah, it was still a fun experience. I highly recommend it. We were both gonna fight at nationals, so there's a nationals event. This was just another event, but it's not really you qualify for nationals. Like I think anyone can apply for nationals just because boxing is so small. But anyways, it got canceled because of COVID, and then we were sent home. And then after we came back, I really like teaching in general, right? So the third year when there was not a lot of exec members, and there was a ton of new members, I would say like 95% of the members were new. But people that had been there before were kind of thrown a little bit into teaching people how to fight and how to throw punches, just because there were so many people, right? So that's when I transitioned more into training, and I've just kind of stayed there. I enjoyed that a lot more.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned like the refs putting in a lot of effort to protect your health, and you've been doing this for several years now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any side effects, or like do you take precautions? Because obviously you're a student at Georgia Tech. This is like your most valuable asset here, and you got to protect and take care of that. Are there any things that you've noticed that have become like side effects or problems you had to deal with?
Honestly, it's like it is a risk, right? Getting hit in the head is a risk at all times, but we do things to mitigate it. We only spar about once a week, like full sparring. Like we do drills and stuff, but sparring only once a week. The refs that ref our fights are usually pro refs, so they like ref actual bouts, and they're super in tune with noticing when someone is about to get hurt. And then we tell them, and they know that. Usually they'll let it go, because in a pro fight, this is your job. So if someone has any chance of coming back, like you got to let the fight go on, right? But at this level, it's not worth it. So they know when to pull the plug. And then our coaches are very, very good. And that's the first thing on their mind as well, is our safety. So all of our coaches, like I've gone up to my coach before and been like, oh, let me spar real quick because I just want to get in some more work. And she was like, no, like you already sparred once this week. We're not going to do that, right? So they're very, very in tune with it. All the members on the exec board are very in tune with safety first. And I haven't seen any side effects from anyone. Honestly, I've only seen positive things come out. Like people are winning fights. You know, they get to the chance to compete. And I think I mentioned this earlier a little bit, but people, like you can't join a new sport in college and then win something off it. It's very rare, right? But in boxing, the skill level is set up so that there's you can fight other people, especially because you're fighting other college people that maybe also just started boxing. Because the people that have been fighting their whole lives, they're not doing collegiate boxing. They're doing like amateur and pro fights, right? So you're fighting other people at your skill level, and you have this real chance to win something tangible, rather than like, oh, you win like a weekend tournament of people that are half-assed doing the sport or whatever. So I would say people, like especially people that put in work and win belts and stuff, or even get the chance to fight. It's a very good experience for them.
Yeah, you mentioned the positive experience or positive benefits, and that's something that I at least what I've looked into, what I've heard, what I've seen from other people is just obviously the number one thing is like stress relief. You know,
right?
You're a student at Georgia Tech. It's a very rigorous,
very
rigorous, stressful environment. So something like boxing or weight training, like it's really positive, healthy ways of like releasing all that stress.
Yeah.
And like the other benefits too are supposed to be, you know, related to your confidence, your endurance, and it's something about like if you're able to like get in a ring and like fight someone, like other things in life just seem so trivial at that point, because you've been like at the most like intense part of your life. So everything else just seems easy. Like you're worrying about things that don't even matter.
Yeah.
And it just puts things in perspective, I would think. Right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, of course. So especially the thing that you go after practice and beat up a punching bag, or like even if it's the fact that sometimes people go to class and something is not like they're not grasping something or a concept, and it's a tough thing because I know at least for me it was like in high school. I felt this my freshman year in high school, like no matter what was happening, even if it took a lot of work, there was always the payoff, right? There was an exam or a test or whatever. If I studied hard enough or if I spent enough time on it, good things would happen, right? But in college, there's a lot of difficult concepts that you have to grasp, and there's not always that immediate positive feedback after you like study for 6 hours. And you're like, I still don't understand this. But if you go to boxing, I think I messed with the no, I'm good. So people go to boxing and they're like, you know, I spent this amount of time jump roping, and now my footwork is so much better, right? I spent this amount of time working definitely.
I didn't know footwork had to do with jump rope.
Yeah, because you're light on your feet, you can move your feet around. But I spent this amount of time.
I didn't think I would get sore with. Sorry to cut you off.
Jumping rope. Yeah. It's definitely
no.
Gonna
Like
work
when
out.
you're you're just doing drills, even like you're on your feet.
Oh, your calves?
My calves, it's sore so
fried.
fast.
Yeah.
It's good because I don't train calves, so this is.
Hey man, it's genetic, right? It's all genetic. I'm not predisposed for good calves. That's my excuse. Anyways,
my dad has great calves. I don't.
Oh,
I don't know what happened.
Bro, it's the genetics fault. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, great. Sorry.
No, please. Yeah.
This is not important.
Yeah. But you go and you punch the bag for a certain amount of time. Your punches get better, right? You go, you spar somebody, do some defense drills. Your defense gets better. Yeah. So it's just that I'm getting better quickly. Immediately, like I can see the feedback immediately, so I feel like that's something that people look forward to at the end of their day. And it's always something that they can count on. In addition, we have a great just community of people in general, right? So especially like driving there in the carpools, you just hang out with people that you don't even know because we're like people just sign up for random carpool spots.
Well, not me. Apparently, I can.
Oh, I can't find a spot.
No, I can't. I drive myself, but I can't work the Slack. I need to fix that. I told you that.
Once you fix the Slack, you get like cool new people that you have that are in the club that you get to drive to practice. We have a ton of social events. You're basically just going, hanging out, and training, right? It's like the perfect situation. Like you're doing something positive, and I don't know, like maybe sometimes you hang out with your friends like, oh, I didn't really get anything done after that, right? But now you go and you're getting better at something and hanging out with your friends, so it's a great experience. Yeah,
for real. I like that you said that because a lot of times like people in college are always looking for stress relief, and you know whether that's like the nightlife or you know different sports or activities. Some are healthier than others. I think we can all agree. And I think, I mean, maybe it's not like the super healthy way of thinking of things of just like, am I gaining a net positive after it? But like, obviously, at some points you want to like think, oh, like I did this and I got training out of it and I got to spend time with like cool people. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. You know, like
exactly. Yeah.
That doesn't always happen, and especially in college, it's like
you're really repping the GT Boxing Club right now.
Ooh, yeah. Like, everybody come join the boxing club.
For real, making it sound great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so why did you stop competing? Were you worried about like any damage or? Just, like...
I don't think that was like maybe it was in the back of my mind. I didn't really notice it, but the first thing was I get bored super easily, right? Mm-hmm. So I was more interested, like especially like during freshman year, I was doing boxing. I was in a flow. I was locked in. I didn't think about anything else. During COVID, I started working out a lot more, putting on some muscle mass, and started experimenting with different ways of working out, like with weight training. Mm-hmm. And there's different things that seemed fun, and then I tried to do both of them at the same time, and it really doesn't work out. And if I'm competing, I'm
just
going
timing wise, or just like
like your body being fatigued. Yeah.
Because you're doing Olympic lifting too, right?
Yeah. So Olympic lifting or just going to the gym in general when you're like you have torn muscle fibers and you can't go to practice and try to do something because you're sore, right? So
also mentally fatigued too. Sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like going to the gym and you're tired. You try to go to boxing and you're also tired and. You can this led to me telling people because I get this question a lot is like how do I balance weight training and boxing, and I tell them it's a scale. Like if you are trying to do like weightlifting, it's something that you have to be dedicated to, and there's resources that your body's using that is going to that rather than boxing. And I'm not saying you can't do both, but to compete at a high level, like you don't see any, like you can tell boxers are skinny, you know what I mean? Unless like they're heavyweights or stuff. But a lot of boxers don't do weight training for a reason, right? Or like heavyweight training. They're not trying to lift more weight. They're trying to win their fights, right? So
they don't want to gain weight either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have to cut sometimes. So you'll see people do weight training when they want to go up. In like Canelo, when he went up to fight, I think Bivol, he like probably did some weight training to gain more muscle mass because he had to be heavier, right? He doesn't want to just put fat on. But anyways, back to your initial question. If I'm competing, I want to go every day. I want to train boxing, but at a certain point, it just got a little bit boring for me. And also, I got, like I said earlier, more into training, and I love teaching people in general. So, like in anything I do, I like to implement teaching. And I feel like one of my skills is breaking things down to a place where it's digestible for people. So if I got pretty good at boxing my freshman year, and I'm understanding all these things, and I'm seeing ways that I'm being taught, and then I'm going on social media, I'm seeing other ways that things are being taught, and I feel like I have a skill of transferring that knowledge. I don't know, I just think it's something I love to do, and I hope I'm good at. So I just stayed training. Also, another thing that happened is one of our coaches stopped coming for a while, so there was kind of like a need for a coach, and she couldn't find anyone, so the exec members stepped up. And the other two exec members that were doing it with me were more into fighting, so I just ended up being the one that was training more often. And
what are the like credentials that you need to have for being?
There's really no credentials. I've just been doing it for some time.
People just trust you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Obviously, you've been in an actual fight, so that's something too.
Yeah, and like it's not like I don't train the people that are trying to compete, right?
Okay.
I feel like I have a good understanding of the basics that you need to learn, and then I can, teach the new people so that eventually they can be on comp team, right?
Okay.
So I pivoted more into a training role and building the club out role, kind of.
Yeah. It seems like you're doing a lot of networking.
We're all doing, the entire exec team.
It seems like it's
awesome.
Paying off at least.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of people.
Yeah, like who would have known? We're actually right now doing like a demonstration at, I think it's the Chinese Student Association. Like they're having a festival, and they're like, "Hey, boxing people, come do a boxing demonstration." So it's always cool to get that out into the community.
Huh.
Yeah.
And one question I had is, I know you talked about kind of like training people and that they can see the immediate technique working off or paying off. But I'm just wondering, like, how much of the initial learning response is based on technique, and how much of it is just like talent based?
Yeah. So.
Or maybe that's just like the higher level, like
So there's definitely people with different sort of backgrounds that are better at boxing, and I would say some of the most beneficial things are things like dancing, where you have to have good footwork, obviously.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say a lot of sports translate over just because you have to have hand-eye coordination. And boxing it's very like your feet and your hands move separately at times, and they move together at times. It has to be very, very synchronized.
Yeah.
So especially with dancing or dancing that you do like with props or your hands or anything like that, people that have really good footwork and can be light on their feet, it's super beneficial in boxing. And another huge thing that I've noticed is people with any rotational force backgrounds, like baseball, you have to rotate and hit something. Hockey, you have to rotate and like hit the puck or whatever. It translates very well to boxing because you have to move your body together in a way that generates the most force, right? So like maybe sometimes you guys have watched like street fights and they're just swinging their hands, but that's not really where the power comes from. Like
I thought the power comes from the speed.
It comes from the speed, but like you being grounded and connected to the ground and everything. Like I always like to relate it back to baseball. Like the pitcher, he has his mound, right? And he's pushing off of the rubber, and that's where all the force comes from. If he was just standing on flat ground and he didn't have anything to push off of, or let's say he was think of someone standing on ice and trying to throw something really far. They can't because they really have no connection with the ground. But if you can ground yourself...
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. If you can ground yourself...
I guess they like crack the ice probably too. I don't know.
Maybe a hockey rink or something like that. We'll try it in a hockey rink. but all the power comes from the ground. So learning how to generate that force and keeping it with your legs, because your legs are way stronger than your upper body, right? So using that force and that rotation, whipping everything around at the same time to generate the most force. If you've done that in some capacity before in a different sport, even like tennis, I guess, you know, it helps you in boxing.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that with dancing. I know you've done a lot of dancing recently, but like for me, when I tried line dancing and like learning the steps and then putting it all together, and me being a very uncoordinated person, I just like putting it all, like learning the steps itself were easy, and then they make you put it all together and do it with the rhythm. Everything fell apart. And I had deja vu because like when I went to boxing, I learned the moves and I was like, okay, this is easy. And then you put it together and you do it like 1,000 times, and I'm like, oh, I'm starting to mix up hands. I'm starting to like my feet are like messed up. You know, I'm not on my heels.
You are on your heels.
I mean,
you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. I am on my just worded. So like just all those things are off, and I was like, oh, I'm getting deja vu from like my bad coordination with dancing, and I was like, it basically feels like dancing, but with way more consequences. You know, I mean, less time to think. I mean, even dancing, I don't think there's time to think, but
it's like just like with anything, you have to put in the reps, and once you're thinking about something, it's usually not going to be very quickly. But if something like you've practiced it a million times and it's just a reaction, then you know you'll be much better at it.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit again into like neurology. How I mentioned earlier that there really is no such thing as muscle memory and stuff. That's just a term that was coined by someone, but in reality, it's more like neural highways. That, of course, like the first time you do something, your brain is like going all over the place, like taking these back roads and weird turns, turning itself inside out, trying to figure out the flow and style of these movements or whatever new thing you're trying to learn. And as you do it again and again, you reinforce that connection. And you get to a point where you have like these highways in terms of like how your brain understands how to do any sort of activity, so that it gets to a point where you're almost like instantaneously reacting in a situation where you don't like consciously think about it, because your brain is just like being able to make decisions that quickly.
Yeah, and it's important, especially in boxing, because like if you see a fist coming towards you, you got to get out the way and then immediately go on the offense.
That's where I'm like confused, because in the first part when you start boxing, it's basically just encoding your muscles with this like technique, and I do it 1,000 times so that it's neural highways. Creating those neural highways.
Right.
My neuroscience brother will approve this. But at like a certain level of boxing, you have to be able to kind of see judge your opponent, right, and know his moves and figure out what kind of works, like play the defense or whatever. So you have to be able to think under that.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering where the cutoff is exactly. What are you actually thinking about? Especially in your experience with your fight, like what's going on in your head?
So, with my fight specifically, so boxing in general is supposed to be like chess, right? You're seeing what the opponent is doing, you're setting up your own stuff, and you're trying to attack while still not getting hurt, right? Especially in chess, let's say they're pressuring you, you're not trying to only play defense. It's not like baseball where you're on defense or you're on offense. You need to switch very, very quickly, right? And start pressuring them so that they don't get like a bunch of steam going, right?
Right.
I think a bunch of steam going is the phrase. I don't know. Anyways, so in my fight, and I would say everyone's first fight, I'm sure there's some people this didn't happen, but like it's basically you're just swinging your hands, you're super out of breath, and you feel like you're gonna die because you're breathing super hard. Like I remember I was in the fight, and I came back. So just for some context, our rounds, we only have 3 rounds and they're only 2 minutes long each. So you would think, oh, that's way less than a pro fight.
Yeah.
This should be easy. But it's really not, because everyone has that adrenaline going and they're trying to kill each other. You're trying to kill each other the second you get out there, you're swinging. You get tired in like 10 seconds. I remember I went back to my corner after the first round. I was like, I don't know how I do this. I don't know how I do this.
And like scoring water.
And the round seems so long, and then the break seems so short, and like everything flies by.
That time is
and you don't even remember. Right? Yeah, exactly. And you don't really have time to set up things, especially because you have such a short amount of time. You can kind of go at a higher pace.
Is there footage of that fight?
No. It was actually at a place where they didn't allow filming.
So you can't go back and watch it.
I can't, which is super unfortunate. It's super unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate.
I think it'd be interesting.
What kind of place doesn't allow filming?
Yeah. It was like a country club, kind of. But it was basically just a bunch of like it was in Virginia. It was like a bunch of men's. It was a bunch of men there, and it was a country club. I don't know why they didn't allow filming.
That's weird.
But it was like a charity event for us too. Like we went and did one of our events there, and then they gave us a bunch of money.
Because I think it'd be interesting to just go back and watch it and see
I
like,
really
how much of
like
it do you actually remember you doing. You can like see.
I just remember I got punched in the face a lot. Like I got jabbed in the face a lot, right? Like I remember them yelling at me, "Move your head, and like you don't remember anything.
Can you hear that
vaguely?
Stuff, or does it kind of get like zoned out?
Vaguely hear your corner unless you've like done a bunch of fights and you can train yourself because like hearing your corners, like they see everything, right? They see things that you don't even think about seeing. So if you can listen to them, that's super beneficial. Yeah. But once you're in there and you're like, I'm in this fight, I'm focusing on my opponent. You know, you don't even think about hearing anybody else. But anyways,
that's so easy to probably zone everything else out.
Yeah, and you know, I went into it and I was like, I'm gonna listen to my corner. I'm gonna hear her and I'm gonna react to what she says. But you're just in there like,
is she the same coach that's there now? Or
Terry. Terry the Boss Moss. She's in the Hall of Fame.
Shout
she's
out.
Super hype.
Hopefully she's watching this.
Yeah,
maybe.
But she's like she runs Buckhead Fight Club and a great partner.
I think I've seen her there. Yeah.
So she trains the competitive team.
Oh, gotcha.
But anyways, what were we talking about?
Sorry, your experience.
Your corner.
Oh yeah, I was trying to listen to my corner, but you really can't. And was the question? What was my experience with boxing?
Yeah, just like where does the thought, like the thinking, come in? Are you thinking?
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Like, is it just...
So where I was leading to was with the first fight, you really can't think.
Yeah, you can't.
But in pro fights, like the ones that last a long time, it's you're trying to read the other person to see what their tendencies are and then react to it, and obviously the other person's trying to do it to you. But it's this kind of long form game where you're trying to read the other person as you're fighting them. Right. Because I feel like obviously you can go back and watch their other fights and see how they fight, but you know, people switch up every single fight because they know they don't want to be read like a book, and like the other person knows exactly what they're gonna do. So it's kind of every time you throw a punch, you're opening yourself to getting hit, right? Because like if you're in your guard, you're protecting yourself. Even if they throw punches and you're only on defense, like especially people that are pro, you can react to it. And for us, we drill defense a lot. So if you're just on defense, you can react to it. After some time, you get tired, and you can't only do defense, obviously, because the other person's going to win just off points, even if like you're protecting yourself and you don't get knocked out. But
so you eventually have to start striking.
Yeah, you eventually have to switch to offense. Yeah. And once you can see the punches that the other person is throwing and react to them, like that's where you start winning. So it's not even that I'm thinking super hard about what I'm going to do. Maybe back in the corner, I'm thinking about, okay, this is a strategy that can develop. But it's kind of like in practice, someone throws a certain punch at me, and I have a combo ready. Like let's say they throw like a cross. I know I'm going to slip left. Maybe I throw a hook, and I have a little combo ready, right? And then in the actual fight, that's exactly what I'm going to do, but only because I practiced it so much. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like I'm arming myself with the arsenal of things I'm going to do based on what they do. To quickly switch from defense to offense. And then obviously you have your own offensive arsenal ready to where if they're just relaxing and you're on the offense, you can throw a certain amount of things that are a little tricky and might get them to lower their guard, and then you can catch them. So it's kind of like a balance. It's not like you're thinking super hard because you can't, because you're
like you're probably just thinking
it's very quick.
Now, but you don't think about the specific.
Once you practice like a combo very often, the combo just flows out. It's just like if you practice one punch very often, that one punch is going to flow out very easily. Mm-hmm. And if you practice that combo very often, that combo is going to flow out very easily. So it's like a balance of having enough stuff ready, but not overextending yourself too much to where they can read you. Yeah.
Interesting. I guess that translates to most aspects in life. It's just like the skill you can learn, just like hammering down one thing, like will help you, I guess, a lot. Maybe that doesn't apply as much. I guess that is a very fighting specific thing.
Yeah, like everyone that starts, they want to do a bunch of different crazy, flashy stuff, right? Yeah. And like you're in college, you're here for 4 years. Some people, they want to fight like at the end of the semester, and you tell them there's a very small time frame in which you have to get prepared. So you should focus on the basic stuff and get really, really good at it rather than trying to learn something without having the fundamentals, which that is like everything. Obviously, you need the fundamentals. But once you learn like the basic punches, it's more so like maybe you see something on social media that's a cool combo and you practice it and you add that to your arsenal, and now like it naturally flows out because you practice it so much. And then once you know the different specific punches, you can string them together in different ways to make different combos based on like your reaction to what the other person is doing, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
But usually at this level, they're very short rounds to answer your initial question, and people just try to go and,
How long are the rounds?
2 minutes. So 3 2-minute rounds. Yeah.
Must be the longest 2 minutes of your life.
No, it is. It's very, very long. When you're watching it, it's not. But when you're in there, I promise you, they'll last forever.
I feel like the closest experience I've had to that is, obviously, I'm in a fraternity, but we have this competition in the spring called Greek Week.
Okay.
It's a bunch of like non-athletic and athletic activities, but tug of war is one of them.
Okay.
And they like dig out a mud pit in like right next to the CRC, like the sack fields. And basically they fill water to make mud, like fill the water and dirt and it makes mud.
Right.
So you go in this pit and you're like, and we wear like the most ridiculous outfit. We have like jorts and a white shirt.
Yeah.
And we go in there with like a strategy, right? And then we just start tugging, and then everything just goes out of my head. Like I'm just like tugging for my life. I forget everything that's going on, and it's just like there's no thoughts. And at a certain point, it's just like durability. Like how long can you last?
Exactly.
And then after a certain point, you're just like, I want to go home. I hate this. I hate my life. Because like when the opponents are really good, they know how to like just hold on for the longest time. Which I think I guess somewhat applies in boxing. You just know how to like wear them out.
Right, so that's why cardio is
especially with stronger opponents. You just like wear them out and then go in, take your punches.
That's why, it's another thing to relate to that. It's like you practiced one thing, right? You had your strategy for your opponent, but that's the same thing in boxing. If you just practice a combo and you're like, this is what's going to happen, I'm just going to throw my punches and I'm going to win.
What's going to happen.
It's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Something the opponent's going to do something you're not expecting, and
unless you're like Sherlock Holmes or something. Predicting something.
No, those scenes are pretty sick with Robert Downey Jr. movies. Anyways,
I love this.
Yeah. I wish I could be like calculating. Anyways, so like let's say you practiced like you had two teams, and then you practiced like the other team would do different things and you would react differently to those things. Then you're better off, and you've practiced, and now this is what I'm gonna do in this situation. It's not even like we have to get back together and create a new like strategy. So we've already practiced the strategy, right? So obviously you never know what your opponent's going to do in boxing, and if you've practiced with a bunch of different people and you've sparred with a bunch of different people and you have a lot of different experiences, you'll have that automatic reflex on what to do.
That's fair.
Yeah.
There's this movie. You said something earlier, and I wanted to bring it up, but it was kind of ridiculous. So I was waiting until we got a little bit into the good parts of the conversation.
All right.
I don't know if you've heard of this. It's called Real Steel.
I have seen this, I think.
Yeah?
Vaguely sometime
ago. No, because
you
were talking about like the different levels and how boxing's not like other sports in the sense of like, for most sports, it's like you train from the beginning when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And then you get into it, like from high school to play professionally, D1 or whatever, in college.
Yeah, like even club baseball teams in college are very, very good. It's full of people that have been playing for a long time. It's not like I want to start learning how to play baseball now and I'm getting on a club team. So, yeah.
But like with boxing, it's different.
Most people that are on a competitive team, like I think I mentioned this earlier, have never fought before.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it just reminded me of this movie that I watched in my childhood because they'd have like these street fights. Real Steel.
I don't think you said the name yet.
Real Steel.
We were just looking at that.
Sorry.
At the computer.
The movie's called Real Steel. And it's like, you've seen it, right?
I think so. It's like some guy that...
so basically, it's like boxing, but people compete with their robots.
Right.
So they have like a robot and they like control it with their hand gear stuff. And it's very complex, it's very futuristic.
I remember for some reason, I remember it as being a sentient being, but I guess not.
No, it was, yeah. So at the end, they kind of brought like vibes of it being sentient and like actually responding to the kid's touch. And the whole idea was that like the kid got the humanity in the robot.
All right, I guess I got to rewatch this.
Yeah. I don't know if the movie's actually good, but Hugh Jackman's in it. He's a pretty big actor.
Really?
I think it's Hugh Jackman. Oh, I might be wrong. Is that Hugh Jackman? That's not the point. Yes, it's Hugh Jackman. Yes, it is. But the whole and he's like an actual boxer, I think, in the movie.
Okay. Oh yeah, he's like old and
because
burned
like
out. And
it's mirroring human moves, so you actually have to know how to box.
Okay.
But the whole point, the reason I brought it up is because I remember in the movie, it's like obviously they start at the street fight level and then they work their way up, and then eventually they're competing like professional. Obviously, it's a fictional movie. But like that just reminded me of that. Like I guess is that there's no street fights really today's world that I know of, but
they're definitely street fights.
Okay, yeah. No, but that doesn't like help you to get anywhere.
Yeah. So boxing is kind of different also in the fact that if you want to go be a pro, like in baseball, football, or basketball, you go, you work your way through the D1 circuit, whatever. Maybe you're a walk-on, I don't know. Then you go and there's a league, right? There's the NFL, the NBA, NFL, NBA. What is it? MLB, right?
MLB,
But in boxing, it's weird because there's so many different organizations offering belts. It's not really super unified all the time. So like you'll see a million different people that are undefeated, but like you know what I mean? It's not really. It's a big deal, but not really that big of a deal because you get to pick who you're fighting. It's not like this is the number one person, this is the number 2 person. They are fighting to figure out who's the number 1 person. Usually it works out that way because that's what the people want and that's what the promoters set it up as. But it's not really like a league where you go and you fight and there is the best one. There's a bunch of different like organizations. There's a bunch of different things going on, and you can go fight in all those different leagues. That's why like you see a bunch of people with like 5 different belts, right?
Yeah.
It's different weight classes, but it's also different organizations that are offering them. So basically, to get back to what we were talking about, if you want to go pro, you don't really come to our club, right? Our club is for people who are in college and want to do collegiate fighting. So they're college students first that also like boxing, and we offer our own belts.
The fitness part of it too.
Yeah, but like our competitive the competitive level, like we offer belts, and I'm pretty sure you have to be a college student to like register for this organization. So it's very new, it's growing, but it's also kind of like the caveat is that there's other people who are boxing in college, but they're amateurs and they're trying to go pro, and they're going through their own circuit of all these other organizations that, you know, get you that fame and that money, right? So that's why like boxers make an obscene amount of money. It's because they're not getting paid by like a specific team that drafts them, they're signed to them.
It's mostly like promoters.
Like if they can bring in a bunch of different views and the promoter wants to pay them a bunch of money, like that's how much they're getting paid, right?
Wow.
So it's very different.
Conor McGregor, well, he's MMA.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's the same.
Or the UFC is different because I'm pretty sure the UFC is the organization that sets up the fights.
That's an actual league.
Yeah, it's a league, and you go and they pay you. That's why there's been a ton of controversy about like them not paying their fighters enough because you see the boxers being paid like millions and millions of dollars. And then, what do you think Floyd comes back? Like, he makes a shit ton of money every single time he fights, even though it's some random person. They're getting a bunch of sponsors and pay-per-view.
So no one's really as good as him.
No, I'm saying like he's fighting random people. Like he's doing side quests. He's fighting Deji next. I'm pretty sure. Is
he really?
Yeah, like he fought Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Like Logan Paul is not a boxer.
That was a joke. That was not.
But he's still getting paid so much money for this, right? Yeah. And it's
more like a show than it was like an actual.
Yeah, but you'll never see MLB team playing. You'll never see an MLB team playing like a college or little league team for show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a very different environment to where
maybe if they were Logan Paul.
maybe. But it's a very different environment to where if you can bring in money, you know, that's where you get paid. Like sometimes people will fight other people just because of popularity, not even because of how good they are. Usually, you tend to be more popular if you're better. Exactly.
The sad reality.
So that's why, like, you can say there's a bunch of different people that are the best boxers. Like, everyone has a different best boxer. Obviously, one, it's the weight classes, right? Like, you know, Mike Tyson's never going to fight Floyd Mayweather. Mike Tyson would kill Floyd Mayweather. And that's not a hot take. He's just way bigger, right? Anyways.
I don't think he thinks that you would.
Floyd knows too. Don't worry. Floyd's gonna come after me now.
You ever watch like any of like Mike Tyson's old stuff or Muhammad Ali's stuff?
I haven't watched Muhammad Ali that much. I don't know.
So fast.
But like it's like I don't know why it just never gets like I see Tyson Fury fighting, right? And I can see that it's this giant dude because it's like color television. I see him standing next to other regular people. But Muhammad Ali, I just look at the screen, it's like it doesn't really sink in how big he is and how quick he's moving based on that. It's just like other boxers move as quick as him, they're just way smaller, right? That's why it's so impressive because he's big. But yeah, but Mike Tyson for sure.
Moving that fast, you're dead.
Yeah,
there's no chance.
That's why like it's so weird seeing Tyson Fury fight. It's crazy because he's so tall and he just looks like a very unathletic, like lumbering like giant.
Unathletic.
And no, look. Have you seen Tyson Fury?
No.
Not Mike Tyson. Tyson Fury.
Okay.
Tyson
I don't
Fury.
know enough about the.
Okay. No, Tyson Fury is like
I feel like
he's the Gypsy King.
Now.
He's like 7'1". He's white. He's bald.
Tyson Fury.
He's like the.
Oh God, you're right. Yeah.
Right? He looks kind of fat. But dude is so fast. It's crazy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is one of the bigger heavyweights. That's why I think he's probably the best heavyweight right now.
We've gone past this.
No, anyways.
Boxing knowledge.
Yeah. But Mike Tyson, he's always fun to watch because no matter what size he is, like it's just he looks cool doing what he does.
But one thing about Mike Tyson, because I know he went to jail at one point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure for what or what happened there, but I know like people were saying he was just training hard in jail because
nothing else to do.
There's nothing else to do, and the people said he came out and he just looked like another person. You just
he was always menacing though.
Yeah, it's like thinking about how that applies to every one of our lives. Like if you put effort in just one thing for the next like 30 days, like how good you could get at it. Like you were saying, you were doing boxing almost every day.
Yeah.
When you started, you were able to compete. And I think that's like a positive message that people need to hear today. It's just like everyone's so spread thin, it's like focusing on so many things, but like the reality is if you focus hard on one thing, you can get really good at it.
Yeah.
Especially with boxing, you see the results.
I feel like I've kind of started to move to I've started to realize, I think it's something that everyone has to realize for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you can get told that a million times, but like unless you see it work for you, it's not really sinking in. But I think for a lot of people, they try to get better at a lot of different things. Like they're like, I'm going to do this, this, and this for 30 days. And it's just too taxing. And not even in terms of like weightlifting and boxing, just even small things that are good habits.
Yeah.
They try to do too much at once. But honestly, like I found that has negatively affected me. So I've tried that. But then I have to go on the side of I'm going to do one thing for 30 days. And it might not seem like a lot, but at least it's going to get done at the end of the 30 days. I'd rather 3 things done at the end of 30 days than trying to do 9 things for 30 days and getting none of them done. So especially with boxing, like I feel like it's very rewarding. So it's something that people are more inclined to only focus on. So it's just an easy thing to go, like all your friends are going and you can work on it for an entire semester. Time flies by. And at the end of the semester, you get, pretty good at boxing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a good final message to have to people is don't get bogged down trying so many different things. When you think about like the billionaires of our day, like they always say like they focus on maybe 2 or 3 things and they get really good at them. And that's why they're as successful as they are. Obviously, maybe they might have different financial backgrounds or whatever. But I think that's a good message to end on, especially with boxing. You see that. Yeah,
and just with a lot of things, I feel like whenever you start working on it, like the curve of learning looks like eventually you plateau. But if you can get to the point where...
But it starts with effort.
Exactly, yeah. But if you can get to that point near the top where like that's the point where you'll have to put in a lot more effort to get a little bit better. Like if you could do that with a bunch of different things,
you can get there first.
Yeah. But no, what I'm saying is if you put in that effort, like you'll see a lot of growth. Like people it's super daunting to start because you're like, oh, it's going to take a long time to get there. But things at the beginning, you improve the most. Like you improve the most very quickly at the beginning, right?
Yeah,
and then after you plateau. Yeah. But if you stick with something for a little bit of time until you get to that plateau, like it'll be rewarding because you'll know how to do a bunch of different things or improve at a bunch of different things.
More of the story, get your reps in,
Get your reps in.
Yeah, that's my new motto phrase that we say. Even with these podcasts, just get your reps in. Eventually it will pay off.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, thank you for being with us today.
Of course, my cup is finally empty. Boom. So it's ours. Lives up to the namesake.
This long edition of recording. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, drop us a like, leave a comment for Manu.
Yeah, leave a comment for me.
And consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.